Hey guys, how's it going? Today we're back with yet another fan video, as you can tell. This one happens to be a very special fan to me because this is a major childhood fan, and I don't mean just this type of fan. This is the exact one, which is super cool. But I will get to the story of that in a second. Brief overview, I guess this is a 1978 Galaxy 12-inch oscillating table fan. It's got the round blue blades, as you can tell, and the later 80s styles base. And it's kind of neat. It's a really early example of one of these. I could be wrong about this, but I think 78 may have been the first year that they did this kind of style. It's definitely got a couple earlier characteristics to it, like this giant metal handle, and the rear guard seems pretty heavy built and kind of reinforced. I don't remember my other one having that. But as far as I'm aware, this was the first generation of this style, and it ran from 78 to 83. But again, could be slightly wrong. Feel free to correct me in the comments below. But yeah, it's got the real early, non-polarized, very 70s style plug on it. It's very kind of unassuming. Real thin wire. And I know it's a 78 thanks to some friends that are experts with these things. And this number here that's inked into the bottom, the first digit of that is the year of production, so that would make this a 78, because it's definitely not an 88. So there you go. Like I said, it's got this really chunky handle in the back, the heavier grill, I believe, at least. Early style plug. Screw on the oscillator there. I think this is just kind of an earlier motor housing, but yeah, it's a pretty neat design. I kind of like it. It gives it a real beefy look. I'm not super into all plastic fans of this era, and I've definitely gotten much more into antiques in recent years, so my memory is a little bit foggy on some of these, but I believe those are all earlier characteristics. But yeah, so I guess backstory on this. This belonged to my great aunt and uncle, and they lived right next door to my grandmother's house. So I can remember back as early as maybe 2 years old even, I used to go over to their house and we'd hang out, and they had a bunch of vintage fans. They had this one, they had this one, which that's a sneak peek for a future video. They had what I think was a 12 or 14 inch patent, similar to the one that I redid in an earlier video, which I can put the card for that up here, which sadly was one of the ones that got chucked when I was a kid. And they had the 9-inch version of this, which I am still searching for. I think that will be my final childhood fan I need to add to complete the collection of those. Which sadly that got chucked somewhere when I was probably in middle or high school and I wasn't going over there as much. But either way, used to go over there all the time. When I was really little, I used to just play with all these fans. And then as I got slightly older, not much, but slightly, I think I was over there probably between the ages of like 2 and 10 years old mainly. Could be wrong, but either way, as I got slightly older, my great uncle and I used to go down into the shop, and we'd grab all these fans and we'd clean them together. And unlike most people, he actually would really go through these. We would take the guards off, take the blade off, you know, the whole 9 yards. I think we might even pop the motor housing on this to clean the dust out of that. Not entirely sure. We definitely did it with that, because I remember him showing me the tricks of getting the grills back and lined up and whatnot. So yeah, it was pretty neat. Kind of had a neat little bond with them over these things. Sadly, my great uncle passed, I think, when I was in late middle school, and my great aunt just passed, I think, maybe last year or earlier this year, at like 93 or 95 years old. So she had a good run, but I contacted the family that was cleaning out the house, and I said, hey, you know, if these things are still there, of course the whole family knows I like fans, first off, but reached out and said, hey, you know, if these things are still there, I'd love to have them, because, you know, I have so many memories playing with these and working on them. So they said sure, and ran over, and sure enough, these two were still there. I remember going to visit her a few years before she passed, and she said that she still had this and she still used it. It always had a funny thing with the speed selection is a little iffy like that. The buttons kind of hang up on at times, and she had mentioned how it still does that, but overall still hanging in there and working. I actually found the thing tucked away in her closet, so I guess this thing had a pretty damn good run. I'm surprised, honestly, it survived as long as it did. But hey, some of these were, I guess these 80s Lascos were pretty, or 70s and 80s Lascos were built pretty tough. Main flaw with these is really the Permawick bearings, or Permawick that they use to oil the bearings, I should say. Tends to dry up and they run out of oil eventually. But we're going to fix that because we're going to convert this to a proper oil wick. But yeah, in this video I figured we'd go through, well, go down memory lane and go through this thing again, get it all tuned up and cleaned up and ready to go for another, 50 plus years. But yeah, like I said, it actually still works. Definitely could use oil. It's a little sluggish getting up to speed, and it is, as you can tell, very dirty. But it still moves a pretty good breeze. I think it's probably slightly restricted with all the dust on it because it's got a kind of odd sound. It doesn't move quite as much air as I remember these things moving, but I'm not 100% sure on that. I'll have to get my other blue-bladed Lasco out of the attic and compare them side by side at some point. But yeah, honestly, still runs pretty good. These things were always good fans. Real nice distinction between the speeds. They move a good amount of air. They're real quiet. For a plastic fan, they are built pretty tough. I will give them that. But yeah, that's turning real slow. I think it should probably be turning a little bit faster than that. Of course, the capacitor could be going out too after, 50 plus years. But we'll get it all taken care of here. Just figured I'd give a before shot there. The other amazing thing with this thing is that 2 of the original clips actually still exist. That is a rarity on these things. And they're the big ones that actually stay connected to the guard too, which is kind of cool. But yeah, like I said, plenty filthy, which is actually usually about the state that I'd find it in every time I'd go over there. So I guess with that being said, it's going to go ahead and throw you guys up on the tripod and let's dive right into this thing and get it all torn apart. Well, I think we're very overdue for a working through it type video here, so I think that's what we're going to do for this one. I'm going to start by getting, well, I was going to say I'm going to start by getting it disassembled. Wow, that's pretty dusty there. Yeah, these things are more or less toolless. Very few tools required, at least. It's gonna come right apart. I'm just dropping everything today. It's another sign of, I think, them being a little bit earlier. If memory serves, most of these, this is the nut, not the screw part. Oh wow, okay. That is slightly stuck. That was an attempt to shock it loose, just in case you were curious. Oh, there it goes. Jeez, alright. There's our blade. So really thick plastic on these. So I'm assuming that's another sign that this one's earlier, because that feels, again, it's been a minute since I worked on one of these, but that feels much heavier than my slightly later 80s version of this fan. This cage definitely is. That I know. And just like that, like a minute later, this whole thing is already stripped down to the motor. One thing we are going to have to address, which is part of the reason I don't care for plastic fans much, is that plastic cracks and degrades, like it's doing right here. So there is a crack that's formed there. It's going all the way down through and is not far from just this piece completely snapping off. So I'm going to try and prevent that from happening, and we're going to pull this all apart and get some glue in there. But yeah, already down basically to the motor assembly. One nice thing about these earlier ones is that, well, it can be nice sometimes. There we go. There's just a screw that holds the oscillator knob on, which is reverse thread, just in case you're wondering. So that will come right out. Rear motor housing's just held on with one singular screw here. And that should slide right off. Wow. Pretty dusty in there. This is also kind of neat. We got basically a terminal block here for the head wire and the motor studs. Capacitor's just held on with a little clip at the back, which I'll get you guys a better shot of that in a minute here. Go ahead and get this front cover off. And I think for this one, given what we got to do here with the neck and everything, and also because I want to do an oil wick conversion on this, I think we're going to go ahead and just completely separate the motor from the base. I'm back and forth of whether I actually want to fix the switch or not, in all honesty. Normally I would, but I have a lot of memories of that switch being kind of hung up like that. So I guess I'll think about that one. But yeah, I think we're going to go ahead and probably, I guess we'll just desolder this head wire here. Maybe we'll just snip them and then resolder it later. And we'll get this whole motor off of here and completely torn apart, which actually, there's a good point to make about these screws when we do that, so I'll try and remember that. I guess to do that, we'll take this guy out of here. That's actually what holds the shaft and motor pivots on in place, keeps it from lifting too far up. And we'll get the oscillator arm out of here, which is also usually reverse thread, and in this case, very tight. Jeez, I don't want to strip it. Wow, okay. So we're going to pretend that that came out for now. Well, this thing was so dusty that you couldn't really see this, which is why I missed it initially. Here's our oscillation arm, which I don't think that's typically just a metal thing sticking out of the bottom. I think usually actually this comes down all the way through off the worm gear and has a little gear here, and there's a big plastic gear here that attaches. This one looks like the gearbox is all self-contained, which is kind of interesting. But either way, we got our little shoulder screw here that fits up in there, which is what the plastic arm rides on. And that's threaded like normal, but what's not normal is there's a little set screw there that was hiding in all the dust. If the camera ever decides to focus here. Come on. Fine, we'll just manually move in. There you go. As you can see there is a little set screw that's holding that main screw in, so that needs to be loosened first, as we just learned. And that's pretty interesting. I don't know why they would do that. I guess, well, to keep the bolt from backing out, but I guess maybe because it's metal on metal and there's nothing to hold it in, whereas the plastic ones, it's more of like an aggressive, almost like screw thread. I don't know. That's my best guess, but that's interesting. I've never seen that before. I have a feeling I'm going to say that a few times with this particular one. As you can see, she's got a couple hours on it, because that's all just slop in that plastic bushing there from years and years and years of it pivoting back and forth. But yeah, that would lift right out of there. So I'm going to go ahead and get the soldering iron out. We're going to desolder this, and then we can take the motor off. Alright, grab the soldering iron, and one thing we're going to do before that, which I always recommend anybody who's taking part in any fan do, no matter how good you think your memory is or how many of these you've done, is to grab a couple pictures of how everything is wired before you go and take everything apart. That way, when your one-night project turns into a 3-month project and you forget, you have something to reference. With that being said, I have my soldering iron here. Actually, I'm just realizing we need a pair of pliers, so I can grab those leads. The solder might help too. We're going to desolder these quick so I can get this motor completely out of the way. Both for ease of servicing the motor, and then also so I can fix this crack in the base. But always tin up your soldering iron before you go to solder or anything, so you get good thermal conductivity. the words. And these things should just kind of pop right out. Like that. There we go. Now we're completely disconnected here. So that will make this a hell of a lot easier to work on. And actually, before we take this all the way off the base, we're going to pop this motor apart, which this leads to a big public service announcement, because this is something I didn't realize was a thing, and I don't think, based on how many people I've heard talk about these and how difficult these are to get apart, I don't think anybody else realizes this either. These are actually not Phillips head screws. I know they look like Phillips head screws, but they are in fact not that. Which I'm going to see if any of these have. Sometimes they'll have a little dot on the side, which I guess these don't. But either way, if you get these, Japanese-made fans, because although this is Lasco, the OEM is Sanyo. In case you didn't know that, they designed pretty much the whole fan, and definitely at least the motors and everything. But either way, these and Panasonics and KDK, and basically all these like plastic 80s table fans, most of you guys know that have worked on these screws can be notoriously difficult to get out without stripping, and that is because they are not Phillips, but they are JIS, which is Japanese Industrial Standard, which is something I never realized even existed until very recently. But the key difference is the taper and fit of the screwdriver into the screw. Phillips is designed to kind of spin out of the screw when you apply too much torque to it, so you don't over tighten the screw. The screw will just strip. JIS relies on the person putting the screw in to determine the torque. The taper of this end of the screwdriver fits real tight into that screw, so they don't just pop out. They fit in real tight, and they will just keep going, which is why you can get these torqued in so tight from the factory, and they seem almost impossible to get out. But just for demonstration here, I'm not going to push real hard. You can see how it's already trying to kind of pop out of that screw, and it's starting to strip. Now we take the JIS, and you can see just how tight that fits, and effortlessly it just cracks loose. So if you guys have a lot of these 80s fans, definitely worth investing in a JIS screwdriver. I happen to have this really, really long one from work, because I work on Japanese-made CNC machine tools, and all of the screws in there are JIS, which is when I learned that it existed. Kind of feel like an idiot for not knowing that in the past, but man, does it make such a difference with working on these, because that came out like there was no torque on it whatsoever. So, yeah, I just figured I'd let you guys know that, because I'm sure I'm not the only one who didn't know. And I'm going to reposition this camera here, and we're going to take this motor apart on the bench here. Well, got the motor out here, as you can see, and I'm going to go ahead and split this apart. One thing I forgot to do is get this pin that holds the blades out of the way. So I'm going to go ahead and do here is grab a little piece of wood, prop the shaft up on, and I always use drift pins for this, like this guy. Got it blocked up on the piece of wood to support the shaft on both sides, and we're going to just take this guy out of here. So they can be quite stuck in there sometimes. They're actually kind of like a knurled pin. Helps keep them from popping out. And there we go. Once you get past the knurled section of it, they usually kind of fall right out like that. But you can see it's got like a roughed up section in the middle. Actually, that almost looks threaded. Wouldn't that be something if that was actually threaded? Never seen that before or heard of that. I'll have to look into that, and I will I'll put a little note here in the video if that's the case. Maybe these really early ones were threaded or something, but hey, it's out now, I guess. But yeah, after that, Gonna grab a little bit of Scotch-Brite. We're gonna clean up that shaft because there's a bunch of gooey crap on it. That way we don't drag it through the bearings. I found Scotch-Brite works really nice for this because it's not overly aggressive like sandpaper. It's good for cleaning stuff off the shaft without actually sanding away part of the shaft. That's not perfect, but it'll be good enough. Carefully feed these wires through so we don't break anything. And there's our shaft and rotor, our stator. Where's the paintbrush? I always use an old paintbrush and maybe a little bit of compressed air to clean these. But usually old paintbrush is more than good enough. Compressed air kind of comes in handy for this side of the motor, actually. just get that everywhere, you know. Make sure to breathe lots of this dust in too. It's always good to do that. See, I would just go grab the air gun and do this that way, but it is very late at night as per usual, and I don't want to wake my parents up because that would not end well. But yeah, here you can see some of the perma wick that was originally used as an oil wick for these things. I'm surprised there's even this much left. Usually, oh wow, actually yeah, there's quite a bit left in there. That's unusual because usually it's basically what it is it's oil impregnated sawdust. And after, you know, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 years, it dries up and it kind of disintegrates, and it does not give these bearings any oil, which is why you'll see guys that try and re-soak this with oil thinking it's just a regular oil wick, and it kind of works, but this stuff doesn't really rejuvenate very well. So that's why I always recommend doing the full-out oil wick conversion, because A, you won't ever have to service the fan again in your lifetime, most likely, and B, it really helps the performance of these things. They run so much better when they got proper lubrication. There's actually a shocking amount of that stuff left down in there too. I'm surprised. Maybe the earlier fans like this had more of it, I'm not sure. But yeah, either way, we're going to be getting that crap out of there very shortly. Well, that's kind of interesting. The capacitor value is actually stamped into this metal little holder thing there. Huh. That's kind of cool. Guess it's a 2 microfarad. So I'll order another one of those just in case this thing ends up being kind of weak, which it might. And yeah, that is pretty well cleaned up. I'm going to go ahead and pop this oscillator housing off, which you always want to make sure you got this one way or the other, because there's a couple spring-loaded balls in there that will go flying across the shop and you'll never see them again. Don't ask me how I know. And we're going to take this apart here too. I guess technically I have to look into it, but I would be willing to bet that most of the screws on these fans are actually JIS. I doubt they just use them for the motor. So that's what I'm gonna keep using that screwdriver, I think. There you go. You can kind of see the 2 spring-loaded ball bearings in there I was talking about. And here's the gearbox. Still got some grease in it, which is actually still, you know, lubricating, but not much. I usually like to pack these things pretty good, so we'll definitely go ahead and clean that old stuff out and get some fresh stuff in there. I guess you really can't take this gear out of here, because that looks like it's pressed on and peened over. I don't know if there's a way to get that gear off from the inside, so we might be kind of stuck just forcing grease in and around there. But yeah, I guess for the time being, let's get this gear out of here. put this over here where I have less of a chance of bumping it, sending those ball bearings flying. Oh, I see what they did. They actually, they put a pin in there and cut the pin off. It's kind of wedged in there. Maybe it's a screw, actually. Let me get this cleaned up here, and I'll get you guys in here for a closer look. So that's how that's held on. The shaft went in from the bottom with this piece attached to it, and they sat the gear on top, and they've got this pin or keyway of sorts that's pressed in there and holds that in place, which in all honesty I could very well see that being a screw that was threaded in that they cut the head off. But either way, that is not coming out of there, so I guess we'll do our best to pack grease in and around that. As you can see, some of the grease in there is kind of nasty, so I'm going to do my best to get as much of this original stuff out of here as possible and get as much new fresh stuff in as possible in and around here. Okay, let's go ahead and get this oil wick conversion underway, which I'm going to show you guys how to do briefly, but there is a full-length, in-depth tutorial video on this that I made with my buddy Rob, who's the one that came up with the idea a few years ago. So once again, I'm going to go put that in this corner somewhere. I'm trying to use the camera backwards here, folks. You get the idea. So, with that being said, first step is going to be to scrape this old Permawick crap, which in this case is basically like dried sponge, out of here. Which once again, this is actually a better case of this stuff, believe it or not. Usually there's A, not this much left, and B, it just completely disintegrates. So maybe, like I said, maybe the earlier stuff is slightly better. Really not 100% sure though. Either way, it's not good. And with how simple this conversion is, I just recommend doing it for all of these fans. So I'm, as you can see, just using a flathead screwdriver, trying to scrape as much of this crap out of here as I can. So I got all the Permawick cleared out of here, best I could at least. Still a tiny bit in there, but not really going to worry about it. This is basically all that came out of it here. And yeah, it's basically returning back to its sawdust form. You can see if I take this and just do this, it just completely disintegrates. Literally turns into, you know, sawdust with a tiny, tiny hint of oil. But one of these will hold infinitely more oil than this stuff ever did. So that's what we're going to put in it. These are big felt washers that you can get off McMaster Car. I forget the part number offhand, but if you go watch that video I made with Rob, it will say it in there. I'm thinking that we might not actually have to cut this height-wise, but definitely diameter-wise. These are meant for, this specific size at least, was meant for 16-inch fans, which I guess have bigger bearings to them. But you can always trim them to fit. All you need is a good pair of scissors. So I'm going to try and make an impression on here with that centered on there best I can. And I don't know if the camera will pick up on that, but there's a nice ring here that we have something to cut along. And I guess, like I said, a nice pair of scissors would be good. So I'm actually going to go steal the kitchen scissors from upstairs. Don't tell Mom. And I'll be back in a second. Alright, I got the kitchen scissors. Once again, don't tell my mother. What she doesn't know won't hurt her in this case. I'm going to do my best to try and cut this in a half-ass decent circle. Coloring inside the lines and cutting on the lines were never my specialty as a kid, and definitely still aren't today. So I'm sure there will be some touch-up work that is required for this. Oh, that's actually not terrible. I guess everybody screws up every once in a while. But yeah, that's going to basically fit right in there. And now the trick with this is, I'm going to take something and really work it down and around that bearing, which the idea of this washer should fit nicely in there. But what you don't want is for this to rub on the fiber washers. So I always take a screwdriver, kind of like you see here, and really kind of push down in and around that bearing. Try and get this felt really tucked in there. And there you go. As you can tell, as if you couldn't tell before, but now you can really tell, that is a lot more oil retention capacity there than this thing ever had from the factory. And that's really all there is to this oil wick conversion. I know it sounds big and scary, but I promise you it's really not. It is that simple. It takes all of, I don't know, 5 minutes to do once you get the old stuff out of there. Honestly, this one's the harder one to do because it's so buried down in there. I guess you could pop the stator out, which might make it a little bit easier, but either way, this one I think I'm going to spare you guys because that one, like I said, touch more difficult. I think I'll spare you guys watching me do that. And yeah, as you can see, this one's real nice. Okay, two little PSAs, I guess, or things to take note of with these. One, I forgot to mention this before, but be really careful when you're poking and prodding and scraping in here. It's very easy to come out and nick one of these windings, or even break one in worst case. They're rather fragile, so just be very mindful of what you're doing. Two, this front bearing is much shorter than the other. I don't know if you noticed in the other bearing here, but the actual bearing itself stuck out pretty far from the casting. So I was able to use almost the full height with the washer. I actually went back, oh my god. I actually went ahead and took this back out off camera and shaved a little bit off just so it really kind of sits below the height of the bearing there. That way we don't hear any weird rubbing noises from the fiber washers. This one I really had to cut down. I cut it almost in half. And as you can see, or maybe not, there you go, that's in there. They both look really, really nice. So I think with that being said, it's about time to put this motor back together. One thing I am going to do real quick, just because we are here, and just in case I did bump any of these, is I am going to put a very quick coat of varnish on this. This is EL 600 Clear. By Spray On. That is the only varnish you should be using on antique fans. The red stuff sucks. So you basically put this on like spray paint, and you just douse all the windings in it. I really don't think this will take too much, so I think that's what we're going to do for that. I'm going to actually, just because we're here, you know, why not sneak it into these vents in the front. And yeah, I think we will call that good enough on the varnish department. Don't want to do too much and risk this thing starting to smell. Made that mistake before. So we're going to oil this thing now, and my buddy Rob has gotten me on the Royal Purple bandwagon, and this stuff definitely seems to be a much higher quality oil than your Zoom Spout and 3-in-1 oil that everybody uses. Not that there's anything inherently wrong with those, but this is definitely a much more substantial, higher quality oil, and it's I found the Zoom Spout can be quite light at times. And this stuff is definitely a little bit heavier, which is better. Won't evaporate as easily. But yeah, we're going to go ahead and really soak this pretty good. Some royal purple here. At some point, when I use up the rest of the zoom spout, I'm going to fill the zoom spout container with royal purple so we don't have to play this kind of stupid game. But yeah, we're going to go ahead and let that soak in. Rotating it around a bit because there's a little bit of a puddle there. And yeah, these new wicks tend to take quite a bit of oil, which is good. This I'm going to have to do at a weird angle. Yeah, you can just see how much oil those wicks are holding already. It's really pretty incredible how much of a difference that makes. Chances are, let this sit overnight and they will keep absorbing even more oil too, which is the crazy part. But yeah, I think that will be pretty good for this for now. Well, I still haven't fully decided what I'm going to do with this yet, but I know the first step either way is going to be getting this neck piece out of the way here, so go ahead and start by loosening the screw. The nut came out the other side. Unthread this all the way. I don't know if the tilt mechanism in this has survived, or if this is like an earlier version that doesn't use that stupid little plastic ring. Oh, actually, it might be. There's actually metal in here, so that's cool. Oh, we're going to send pieces flying, apparently. Oh, wow, there's a whole-out coil spring in there. Oh, geez, okay. Well, that's neat. That's definitely a fair bit more heavily built than the later versions of this. I guess that plate sits in there like that. Cool. I like that. That's for sure. This also makes me feel better knowing that there's an actual metal plate in here behind this plastic, so there's not as much force on this plastic as I had thought. But actually this plate is going to come out of here so I can get some glue down on either side of this. There we go. Damn, I wish I had kept that design. It's a lot better than the newer ones. But yeah, well, we're going to try something new here. I've got CA glue, which I think should be a slightly better and stronger plastic bond than just super glue or JB Well. So it's a two-part thing. You drip this on there and then you spray it with this accelerator, which makes it dry like almost instantly. So I'm going to go ahead and give this a shot. I'm actually going to spread this crack slightly. Try and get that down in there best I can. Fill everything. And then I'm going to spread this one almost as much as we can here. And then I'll squeeze it together and spray it with the accelerant. It'll wipe off any excess accelerant that's on the outside here. Pretty much just like that. It's a pretty solid bond already. But what I'm going to go ahead and do, which I probably should have done this to begin with, is grab a clamp here. And put a little pressure on that. Let her sit for a little while. And let that cure. So we're going to go ahead and put this over here for now. So out of the way, and let's go ahead and get this motor back together. So this has been soaking overnight. These oil wicks will look real nice and soaked with oil, so I think it's about time we start putting this back together. I am going to grab a tiny bit of this. It's always a good idea to get a little oil on the shaft before putting it in the motor. This way the bearings have a little bit of something in them right off the bat. Like this, we just got to be careful to feed all these wires through the cover here. Nice and gently. Come on. There we go. And those just fit together nice like that. So sometimes the rear cover fits on a lip on the stator. Like part of the stator is actually inside the cover. This one looks like it pretty much is just machined to fit flat against the other half. So we get our 3 screws started here. Of course, we can't put this up in the base to give us a little thing to hold it while we work, because the base is drying, but oh well. Got our JIS screwdriver here. Go ahead and torque these down. Once again with JIS, it's really kind of up to the person holding the screwdriver to determine how tight these are. They won't strip very easily, so you can put a decent amount of torque into them. I'm just going to seat them nice and tight. One other thing we're going to do here is realign the bearings. So we're going to take this and equally on all sides give it a few taps. And there we go, that's spinning nice and free. And now that the motor's all put back together, I guess we can put this pin back in here. I don't remember which side this came out of, but I'm going to grab our little block of wood here again and tap this back into place. Grab my drift pin and the mallet wherever it got off to. Basically, you're going to go back in the same way it came out. Like that. Give this one more tap. There we go. And the motor's basically back together now. Let's go ahead and get this gearbox taken care of. I think that's probably okay the way it is. Let's just get some grease and pack it. Which I just got this red grease. It's automotive grease. That's pretty much what I use. I just like to pack them very, very full. This way that there's never a shortage of grease getting to anywhere it's supposed to. So we're just going to kind of slobber a bunch in here and make a complete mess of things, pretty much. Might be a little excessive, but that's just what I like to do because I don't want to have to take this thing apart again, essentially. So that's completely full. And try and work some of this down in and around this gear here. So we do have to make room for this other gear. Just going to go in there like that. I believe these were the 2 screws that came out of here. think all the other ones sitting over there held the covers on, but I guess we'll find out shortly. And now we're going to do some much needed cleanup. Wipe up all the excess grease that has oozed out of this thing. One thing I just realized that I forgot to do, which is something I always forget on these fans, is to put this little rubber cup thing back on the front of the shaft, which I believe just contains any oil that makes its way past the, or through the bearing, I guess, tries to escape out the front. Because there's actually a hole down on the bottom here that passes through back to the wick on the other side. So I think that's the purpose of this, but either way, it can't hurt to put it back. It's there for a reason. I just always get ahead of myself, put the pin back in before I do that, and then see it sitting on the bench there laughing at me. There we go. Now the motor's back together. Can't really do much with this until the base is done drying, and also I'm still waiting on a new capacitor, so hopefully that will be here tomorrow. But I guess in the meantime we can turn our efforts over to starting to clean the grills and the plastic bits here. So I'm going to move all the tools out of the way, clean this up a bit, and let's get to some cleaning. I'm trying to see if I remember how this thing went together. I think that sat in there. This plate go on here? Maybe? Oh, I think it went like that. And then this guy went up in here and caught him. And then the trick was getting all of this lined back up and slotted down in here. Hopefully without disrupting our repair. I did not like that cracking sound. Hopefully we're not breaking stuff here. I think that goes down like that. Yep, okay. Once again, the spring slots in here like that. This guy I think went on the bottom. And I guess we'll do it this way then. Yeah, that's a much easier way of doing that. There we go. Go ahead and get this threaded in there. I need a screwdriver actually. Which actually I'm glad I just remembered that, because these screwdrivers need to go back in my tool bag for work. Oh, we're going to call that tight enough because I'm hearing cracking noises. I'm pushing down on this. That crack is not spreading, so I think we're going to call that a success for now. Snug that up. Put these here. I'm going to grab the tiniest bit of this red grease. Try not to get this everywhere. I'm going to slot this little plastic bushing down in there, and we're going to put just a little tiny bit on the shaft here. I say a little tiny bit, and then smear like 87 gallons of the stuff on here. Oh well. I'll just wipe the excess off. I'll get my paper towel ready to do so here. And let's see how much of a mess we make. Okay, not terrible. It's definitely a touch excessive, but that's okay. We'll wipe some of that up real quick. There we go. Guess we'll put this back down in here again. And of course all the screws are over here. So let me get my stuff together for once. think it was this screw that was in here, if memory serves. Cool, that one's back in. I'm also going to put just a little dab of grease on this oscillator screw. Probably not entirely necessary, but I like to give these things a little bit of lubrication. I don't know if they even ever had any from the factory, but I figure a little extra lubrication can't hurt. And we can go ahead and thread this back up in here. Forget if this is reverse thread or not. Yep, seems like it is. Tighten the set screw that holds that screw in place. Still kind of an odd design, I feel like, but well, whatever. And I think this guy actually came up and was clipped through here. So maybe I was wrong before when I said this gets shoved all the way down in there where you can't see it. Right? I think that was like that. If it wasn't, you guys are definitely screaming at me down in the comments below already. Guess I could go look back at my pictures and see. And let me get the soldering iron heating up, and then we can resolder this back together. Okay, so I think we're going to start by resoldering these little terminal block things back together. So I'm going to go ahead and pull this one off to the side because we don't need him yet. Stick it through there. Get these two guys out of the way because we don't need them yet. And I think, not that it really matters, but I think the two black ones were first, and then brown, and then red. So I'm going to loop that through there and around. And we're going to do the same on this side. I think we're just going to loop these both through and around like this and solder it all in one shot. I don't remember if that's the way it was from the factory, but that's the way it's going to be now. And it should be more than good enough. That's what we got so far. Here, let's actually show you guys what I'm looking at. There we go. So, go ahead and grab my solder and flux, which for you guys who don't know, I mean, I think this is actually just plumbing flux. It's real old stuff, but this is a game changer when it comes to soldering. All you have to do is take a little dab and throw it on the wires you were planning to solder, or the connections or whatever. Doesn't really take much. But this just makes solder take to connections that much better and that much quicker. So especially if you're going to some older wires or they're kind of dirty or whatever, I recommend. Or if you're working next to heat shrink tubing that's going to melt quickly, then I also recommend it for that. Tin up the iron. This iron's really dirty. You're going to have to clean it. You know, you always want to take real big whiffs of this leaded solder fumes. I've heard it's good for you. That was a joke. Don't actually do that. And we're going to go ahead and attempt to resolder this. Man, I'm not super proud of those joints, but the important thing is that they're holding, so I guess we'll roll with that. Not my best work, that's for sure, but hey, oh well, it's good enough. Now, for the capacitor side, I bought some new ones off Amazon, and they have leads, which I'll zoom out and show you. So this is the original guy here. I just had these two little leads sticking directly out of it, no wires. It's in this little metal box. Here's the new one. So as you can tell, there's wires there. So we're gonna have to. I'm gonna try and make this fit in this metal box, just for originality's sake and ease of mounting. And probably gonna trim these, put some heat shrink on them, and solder it up to these two guys. So let me grab the flathead screwdriver. And we're gonna try and just see if we can't pry that up like that, scoop him out. And I think we're going to cut this tab off of here, which means I need a pair of side cutters. This is what I came up with actually. Bent that one around, bent this one around, and it was fitting in there kind of loose, so I went ahead and threw a zip tie on it. I'm okay with that simply because some of these fans came with a zip tie holding the thing on from the factory. So I don't feel bad about doing that. I think it's Panasonic or Sanyo did that. I've seen a couple of their fans where it's a little metal bracket and the capacitor's literally just zip tied to it. It's pretty funny. But go ahead and put this guy on here like this. And we're going to go ahead and shorten these up a bit just so there's not an excessive amount of wire kicking around. Shouldn't take that much to solder it. So we're gonna, oops, wrong one. There we go. Actually, I might give myself a little bit more to work with there. Gonna double check my pictures here, just make sure we got the right wires going to the right places, which I don't know if you can see that, but it's the white two on the top and then that blue one on the bottom. So I think we're alright. I'm going to grab some heat shrink before I forget to put that on ahead of time. Been there, done that before. Get the best solder joints when you forget to put the heat shrink on beforehand. I'm also going to get my heat gun warming up here, so that's ready. I got my wires joined together, got a little bit of a flux on both of them there. And let's see. We can solder these quick. Hopefully not drop the solder on the ground again. Just did that. Unrolled 48 feet of it. Yep, that took instantly. Half the time with the flux you'll see that just the solder you put on the iron to tin it will get absorbed right into the joint right off the bat. So you don't even have to really do that, add that much. Which is always nice. It's always a good idea to wipe off your solder joints afterwards, especially when you use flux. These wires are real small, so they cool quickly. Slide this heat shrink over. Maybe. There we go. Really hoping that this fan will be good to go for basically the rest of my lifetime. Might have to add oil to it once or twice, but with those new oil wicks, it should be good for a very long time. This is a first. I've somehow managed to get the wire for my heat gun in a knot. There we go. Shrink that up. It's always good to try and hit the heat shrink on all sides because it will shrink differently. There we go. And our motor is all back together, so that's pretty cool. I think at this point we're about ready for some cosmetic reassembly. I guess we should test run it first before we put the whole thing together and find out it doesn't work. Here we go, smoke test. Would you look at that? Runs like it's brand new. Cool. With that, I'm going to unplug this so I don't shock myself. And let's go ahead and put the rest of this thing back together. One very commonly overlooked detail on fan restoration is the cords. Which this one's cool, it has its original cord, but as you can see it's quite dirty. And this is one thing I don't think enough people really think about, is cleaning the cords. So I do a couple of different things. I start the easy way with just a microfiber cloth and really death grip the cord and pull it through. I've also done this with the magic sponges before. I've also used other chemicals like rubbing alcohol and stuff to really clean these up. Just make sure you have another hand holding this so you're not pulling directly on the cord out of the fan, obviously. But you can see how much dirt is actually on that cord. Same with the plug. It's good to clean up the plugs because the plug is, well, you end up seeing it a lot. These are good with the magic sponge actually, but as you can see that's already a fair bit cleaner than it was. So I'm going to keep going with this, and I will check back in with you guys in a few minutes when I'm done cleaning everything and doing the last few details, because I'm sure this is going to be a little boring to watch. Damn! That thing came out sweet! I can't believe how nice and shiny everything is and how good it looks. Really the worst part about this thing is going to be this grill, which I think was really supposed to be a bright chrome, but even so it doesn't look too bad with the duller finish. But yeah, that thing is clean. I love it. I was really kind of hoping, you know, with such an important childhood fan to me, I wanted this thing to be as close to mint as I could, and I think I have succeeded. At some point this summer, I'm going to meet up with my buddy Rob, and we're going to retro bright this thing, so hopefully everything will come out as nice as that, because as you can see it is two different colors at the minute, but man, that cleaned up really nice. I highly recommend this, thanks to my buddy Rob. Meguiar's Plastex. It's a headlight polish but it works great for these. I off camera, oh, we're knocking more things over apparently. Off camera, I went ahead and polished up the blades, and I just hit all the plastic on this too, and you can see how nice and shiny that is. It feels like smooth and new. It's really cool. Data plate cleaned up really nice, and the blades, oh man, I know the lighting down here doesn't do us any favors, but those are really nice and clean and just so translucent. I love it. Oh, I love it, I love it, I love it. But man, I am super happy with that. I have saved the first startup for you guys, so hopefully it runs as good as it looks. Here we go. Oh yeah. Yep, that is nice. I gotta get two little clips for the top and bottom. I put these on the sides. But yeah, that thing's running nice. This has not had any runtime on it at all yet, since I put the oil wicks in or anything. Oh, that is so smooth. Thing is crazy slow and crazy quiet on low. I can't believe that. I didn't remember that these things had that much of a difference in the speeds. Wow. That's pretty wild, actually. But yeah, I'm going to go ahead and let this run for a few hours, let that oil work its way into the bearings and soak in a bit, and I'll check in with you guys to conclude the video. Well guys, it's been about a month since the last clip of this video was shot, so kind of forget where I left off, but as far as I'm aware, it's time for the final overview. So here it is. Obviously a little more dust on it because I've been using it, but this thing cleaned up so nice. I am super happy with that, because I'm not going to say it's mint, but it's damn close. It's a real good example, that's for darn sure. But yeah, I am incredibly pleased with that. It's a shame that the grills are a little tarnished. I think they were probably supposed to be shinier chrome originally, but honestly, it's nowhere near as bad looking as I thought it would be. All the plastic cleaned up super nice. You guys are going to think I'm nuts for saying this, probably because it's also not coming through in the video quite as much. The only thing I still want to do plastic-wise is retrobrite this, because this is just ever so slightly yellowed compared to that. And it's like, I've gone this far, so why not? But yeah, overall, super happy with that. I've been running this pretty much, well, maybe not non-stop, but quite often in my bedroom while sleeping. I've run it for multiple days on end without a break, and it just runs great. The CA glue seems to be holding up really good for that neck there. You can't even hardly tell it's there, especially from a distance. But yeah, that seems to be perfectly strong. Obviously it tilts fine, so just gonna go easy with it, but it seems to be more than strong enough. And yeah, I just love how nice and shiny and clear those blades are now. The whole thing's shined up real nice. I mean, even the badge there cleaned up great. So I am super happy with that, especially for such a special childhood fan to me. Which I know from you not fan collectors sounds ridiculous, but I don't know. I attach a lot of memories to objects, I think, and this is definitely one of them. But yeah, I guess without further ado, we'll go ahead and fire it up here. So here's high. Oh, maybe not. Huh. I guess Mr. Switch is having some issues today. That's new. Figures. Just talking about how great it is, and the one time the Switch decides to act up is when I'm trying to video it. But actually, come to think of it, I do remember that Switch having issues when I was a kid, so... Oh, okay. Cutting in and out. Huh. That's really weird. I guess I'll have to take a look at that, but... I wonder if it's like a head wire issue, not the switch. anyways, we'll do that after this video is done. As you can see, for now, it's running really nice. For cheap throwaway fans of the period, and especially plastic fans in general, these things were damn good performers. And they really did last, which is pretty cool, because they weren't ever really designed to. I do like my earlier fans a lot more typically, but some of these 70s and 80s plastic fans were actually pretty darn good fans, and I will give them credit for that. Yeah, I absolutely love the way that looks. I love the blue color they used. It oscillates just as nice. It's a little bit fast in my opinion, but definitely moves the air around pretty good. Those blades have a very distinct sound to them, given their shape. Kind of like that, almost, I don't want to say high pitched, but a nice like whirring sound to them. It's different. Let's try medium. See if the switch wants to hang in here for the rest of the video. Great distinction between the speeds on these two, which was always a nice thing. And low. Which I think the loudest part about that right now is that the plastic is buzzing slightly on this table. So one thing I might actually still do to this is replace these rubber feet, because they've gotten real hard and they don't really isolate the vibrations as well. Because as you can see, that's what it should sound like. But yeah, low speed on these is real gentle, real quiet. Still throws a good amount of air, but it's really peaceful and calm. The oil wick conversion on this definitely went well. It definitely runs much better with that. But I will say the spin down is just slightly short. And I haven't tried it out to confirm this yet, but I'm really thinking that is more of an issue of the grease that I used in the gearbox. Because I tried it with another fan and it had the same issue. So I think that red grease that I put in this was actually probably a little bit on the tacky side. And I probably need some thinner, lighter stuff. But overall, it doesn't really seem to impact how it runs. It's just not really going to do the oil wick conversion too much justice. But actually, that's not too bad. Every once in a while, it's got a slightly shorter spin down, but maybe that's when I have the oscillator engaged. I'll have to play around with it some more. But yeah, like I said before, super happy with this. I'd like to think that my great aunt and uncle are smiling down on me right now too, knowing that I've really gone all out this time, really cleaned this thing up, and I'm still playing with it like I was when I was a kid. But I think that's going to do it for this video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. If you did, please hit the little like and subscribe buttons. I'd appreciate that. Help grow the channel a little bit, and it's free for you guys, so really no benefit or no downside to it. By all means, leave a comment if you have one. I'm a little slow to respond to them, but I really do enjoy talking with you guys down there. So it might take me a bit, but I will respond to it. I respond to them all. And with that, I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.